Okay.
Hello, everybody, and
Hello.
welcome to another episode of the Danny and Troy Show. We're doing them far and few between, but yeah, it's great to be having another episode
Yeah.
and yeah,
Uh,
recording our journey
Yeah.
through.
This one, I always do this to Troy. You know,
Yeah,
I get in a mood and Troy's online and I say, "Hey, Troy, let's record something."
exactly.
And that's typical, right? And Troy responds as he does, which I think is quite well. We're just testing his capability of listening, right, and responding. So actually, I'll start it off by saying I had a request from a Chinese girl living in San Francisco um, to join up. She said, I want to share with you. I looked at your profile on LinkedIn and wow, it's really impressive, right? And so on and so on.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I responded and I said something about thank you for doing this. What can I do for you? Because for me, this is a professional network, and because this is happening like for the third or fourth time. I believe young, beautiful, thin, shapely, intelligent girls are coming around me in droves, and I don't know what to make of it.
Hmm.
Um, and principally, I wanted to say to her, from what I gleaned from the conversation, I'm sorry, you look very nice, you sound very nice, your profile is very nice, you're young, and it would be very interesting for me. I said, but you know what, darling, I said, this I want to keep this professional, so thank you very much. Now, here's what separates the girls from the women, right? One of some ones don't take no for an answer.
Well,
And so they respond, again, and I'm thinking, I told her, I said, uh, I'll talk to you, but you have to pay for my time. And what does she do? She responds again
hmm
and laughs, laugh
hmm
out loud kind of thing, right?
sure.
And then she continues on and on until, all right, the softy in me responds and then again, and she answers. It's quite well done, actually, if you want to get a response from somebody. And she asked me, "What do you do?" And I thought, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay,
I thought I should be able to answer that question
sure.
quite easily, but I was stumped.
Right.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to answer that question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What do I do?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I could, have the technical approach, well, or whatever, which doesn't even interest me, you know. And since you and I do that daily, right? What is
Hmm.
it you do? For you, it sounds simple because you say, "Well, I'm not who you are, but what do you do?"
Sure.
If I ask you that question, you'd probably respond, "Well, I'm a data scientist," and it's like that's not what I asked.
Uh-huh.
They say, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
And then you start crunching it, like eating broken glass, trying to uh, understand better what is it you really do.
Yeah.
And so I was faced with that dilemma, and I actually came up with an answer, and I sent it to her. So now I'm on the hook, right?
Wow.
Little minnow hook, I
Yeah.
guess. That of course, once it's in your mouth, it explodes, and then it's in your jaw, and then you swallow it,
Hmm.
and it's like a million hooks down in your
Hmm.
stomach. And how do you get rid of that? You don't. So I answered her, and here's the answer I came up with, and I was actually intrigued.
Okay.
So, and it's rather simple, of course, that's my requirement. And I said, I facilitate creative expression.
All right.
I went over that in my mind many, many times,
Yeah.
before and after the message was created and
Okay.
sent.
Okay.
And here I am. It's, happened an hour ago. And
Right.
I'm crunching it now thinking, is that adequate? Because it has to be adequate for me. And um, with the plans for me being university professor abroad,
Cool.
I'm also working on the what I'm going to be talking about in class or whatever. I don't know. I hope people aren't going to be sitting in chairs. We should sit under a tree outside to talk about this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I thought, I'll ask them that question because it's a real tongue twister. It's a real puzzle.
Yeah.
For me, at least. I mean, I could have said, well, I'm a producer. What do you do? I produce. Nah, it doesn't sound right. Everybody produces. What do you produce? Until we get a line of questions.
Yeah.
And I thought that the simplicity, maybe English as a second language for this girl, Tina, I think she calls herself. I applauded her composition.
Okay.
Because, when we're joking with each other, like you come to America, the first thing people are going to ask you is, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right. And wherever big city I've been in and people are at a party or get together or they just meet you, and that's the first thing they want to know. They don't want to know, how do you deal with spirituality? Or do you like spaghetti or something like that,
Yeah.
So here I am, and as you can tell, it's going through the mill now. And I want to know what your answer would be and how you feel. Maybe get me out of the way first and move to you. I facilitate creative expression. How does that affect you?
Well, I mean, we've worked together for a long time, and I think, I can see what's going on. Well, first of all, before we even get there, I just have to say this because, these beautiful women that come and contact you on any social media platform, 99.9% of them are robots.
Really? Like robots.
And that's why they have these techniques, and they say LOL or something. They are phishing. They're just looking for people to, who just see the image and read the words. But behind them, is the robot, and then behind the robot are these dorky geeks sitting there with their computers in a big, room full of everybody's going, okay, we got one.
You're a romantic. I can tell, Troy, you're the romantic.
I mean, it's true. It's happened. I know it happens. I'm not saying it's this in this case, but this is what the reality is. And it's a shame that so many it's actually people are making a full business out of it, because the next thing
What's
they
the
do,
end? What do they get out of it?
they'll be asking you, can we meet up? Okay, can I have bus fare? Or I just need this in order to go there. So it goes on for months and years, but, because the end product, people get duped.
So I could be being led on.
I wouldn't touch it. I mean, sometimes just out of curiosity, just to get to the point where you actually know that they are a robot, you can play it and say, wait, I can't remember what we say, but you can just.
What's your favorite porn site? Whatever.
Yeah. The other day and it's on the phone now. It's terrible. You get the mobile phone, because I put my number in some of the times requirement, even for like the local you know, we call them the RSL, the RSLs down. You need to become a membership. So it's RSL. It's like, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's just a pub. And then they ask you mobile, but it then goes somehow, you know, because their security isn't so tight, they'll get hacked, or they don't even know they're getting hacked. So all the numbers go out, and then that goes into a database. And then now I'm getting calls, and people, it's a robot that starts with saying, "Oh, you've been identified as a possible
Selected.
person." Yeah, selected. Or it just says, we just wanted to verify that we're going to be charging $99.99 for your Amazon Prime subscription. And I'm going, and I know I don't have an Amazon Prime subscription, but people will be going, "Oh no, I don't want it." And it says, "Press this button if you want to cancel it." It's like, what, this whole thing doesn't even make sense. Why is it someone would be calling me and asking if I want to cancel my $99? And so you press one, I did it just for fun. And this Indian guy's like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm from Amazon Prime." And then I'm asking him all these, where do you live? And can I have your, and he was saying, "Oh, I live in Melbourne." And it's like, obvious, like, I don't know, he was struggling with English, but, and he could have, but then, yeah, I was asking, like, "What's your driver's license number?" And he's like, "I don't have to tell you my driver's license number. What is this?" And he's saying, and we started getting the heated argument, but he was obviously not working for Amazon, and but he was trying to play it that so far that he was really getting agitated because I was asking him some question, and I was just putting it down, saying, "Oh, I just want to build some trust. You know, I need to make sure that you actually do work." And he said, "Yeah, this is my Amazon employee number." And then, you know, that employee number, you know, didn't come up anywhere. So I'm saying, "Well, what's your license number?" And he's like, "I'm not telling you but anybody could share their license number." So there is a growing wave of these challenging things that come up with modern technology. And a lot of these, which is just a picture and words, you don't know what's behind that until, you know, hopefully you can, well, if you want to, do a video call and then see. But it is a big waste of time. Now,
Unless you don't have anything else to do.
Going back to the question, which I think is the benefit of this, is actually asking you to find out the answer to, what is it I do? What do you do? And yeah, facilitate creative expression is a good example, but again, it leaves just a number of questions in my mind. What type of creative expression? What do you mean by facilitate? And, you know, have you got some examples of what's the benefit of facilitating creative expression? So these are all the questions that come up, and whether you are wanting to, you know, open, like we were saying, the Pandora's box of questions, or you want, yeah, or you want to say, you know, this is the challenge I get when I say I'm a data scientist. People don't know what that is, but if they said, I'm a fireman or a dolphin trainer, they go, "Oh, that's cool." And but yeah, that's why, yeah, I get into the nitty gritty of then it's like, well, what does a data scientist do? So more yeah, data management, analytics, and visualization. Again, by the time I'm finished that sentence, people are looking around the room, seeing who else they can go talk to. So I love the concept of facilitating creative expression. I think that's something we need more of, and more people to be in the space of, but I still think it's not a common thing as a fireman.
I don't think so either. However, I might argue the point and say, when I'm around people I can talk to, right? And they can respond to me. Then my satisfaction with that discourse would be based on their ability to help me facilitate my own expression.
Sure.
Not to get too deep, but that's what I'm thinking. Okay. So
So
Troy,
yeah,
yeah, hang on 1 second. I just want to have reorder things a little bit because you were talking about the technical aspects when actually I didn't care because
sure.
something was going on inside of me, and I don't think I'm a robot. I may be speaking AI from time to time, or people's machines talking to me and trying to figure out, which I'm sure is being done, very, very
That's what,
well.
yeah,
Yep.
I want to get
Conversation
to.
wise and so on. But this was an internal dialogue with
Yeah,
myself about, searching my own soul to come up
sure.
with that. And I pretty much defined how I thought you would answer. And your answer was, pretty robotic, if I may say so,
Yeah.
right? But from the inside out, how would you answer that question in a different way, Troy?
Um,
What do you do? Not what your mother would say. Your mother would say, Troy, what are you doing? It's like
hmm
not the same thing.
hmm Yeah, I
What do you
mean,
do? How do you do?
on a
What do you do?
deeper level, it really is about I love the word facilitate in your facilitate
Hmm.
creative expression. And that brings
3 words.
people. So you facilitate for me needs another person at least, not one individual. So that's where I love helping people. For some reason, I
Hmm.
just fell into this. Okay, I started late actually getting into computers, but once I found it, I thought, this works and I could understand it. And, because I then went and did a degree in IT, and things just kept flowing, and I jumped into databases, got high distinction. Yeah, this makes sense. Mathematics just seemed really easy, and like I love the puzzle side of solving it. And then as I just discovered these things I was good at, got a job in this industry. And then once I had a job, people say, where you work, and I was in here, and then that defined me. Now everybody knows Troy Sadowski is the IT guy. They don't say data scientist, but it's anybody wants to buy a new printer or even a new phone, or like we were talking earlier about a computer.
Right.
Ask Troy. He's a great facilitator to new technology, to new ways of using existing technology, and even inventing new ways of using it or creating new technology, such we had, in cancer research and occupational exposure assessments. So, yeah, this is my space. And what I do is really it's like I'm not sure because I just have this gift. I don't, I'm kind of tooting my own horn here, but for some reason these things come easily. And whether it's fixing a computer, if my dad calls and says, "Oh, Troy, my computer's broken. Can you come over?" So I come over. Can you show me what's the issue? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's not work. It's working now. So just me somehow
It
being
helps to
there.
plug it in.
This happens so many times that I don't know. It's whether I'm drawing too much into it, but in some aspects, there's evidence that just my physical presence fixes problems with computers. And yeah, they and this is really kind of out there kind of thinking. they get scared away. Whatever the problem is in the computer and it's affecting an individual, and he's like, "Oh, that damn computer is not working again." And I come in, I was thinking, "Okay, computer."
Destroy.
Yeah, give it a little rub and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And like, and then it's like it behaves. It says, "Oh yeah, hi Troy, and here's the information you want to see." That's what I do with computers. I understand them. I connect with them on this level, and then things just evolve. And luckily, I have a job that requires that skill, and yeah, create software and
Maybe we could call you Troid.
the Troy, the Android.
Troid, as an android, as in
Yeah.
droid. Troid. Yeah, it works. And all this time, Troy, I thought you were a real person. Damn it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're
I
doing a
mean,
pretty good job.
this is
You're collecting a lot of data.
why I believe my job can't be taken over. It's the human aspect. But there are a lot of jobs that are being overtaken by artificial intelligence and robotic automation. But I bring the human aspect to it, and where I think if we are on this tangent still, the computer totally lacks that. And there is no human element, but it wants to interact, and it in that way facilitates a job, but that facilitation requires a human. And yeah, what I do really, maybe 1% of the stuff is for myself, but I'm 99% of the time helping others, whatever they're trying to do. And I can make that connection, that bridge between the technology and what they're doing, so that it's not out there and overlooked. Or yes, I know a computer there, but last time I used the computer, it was terrible. I'm never going to use that again. So yeah, if they have a Troy, then it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so glad you're here, mate, because the computer's just playing up again." And I walk in and everything's fine. And that's why I love the word facilitate, and that's how I facilitate. And I can
You're a
see,
helper.
yeah, that on your aspect as well with creative expression, the similar situation arises. It's like, I'd love to write a book, but I just can't do it. I don't know do anything about writing, or I'd love to be an actor and be on the stage, but I just don't know how, or write a song or dance like we were talking about before. But these are the obvious box ticks in the box of what is creative expression, and you explain it in beyond these formal understandings of what being creative is. It's about bringing that into the business context that really interests, or should and can interest a lot of others.
It's like business for me is like a cut flower, right? You
Right.
take it, it's beautiful, it's growing outside, and you just can't help yourself.
Yeah.
Don't just pull it, break it off, cut
Yep.
it, right?
Sure.
And take a vase full of water with you. Anyway, when they cut the flower and they put it in a vase, it seems like, okay, that's business. It's
Yeah.
no longer living. It looks like it's living, but
Mhm.
in a day or two, depending on the room temperature, humidity, and whatever, and lots of other factors, this flower is going to die. There is nothing that's keeping it alive like it was when it was outside.
Sure.
And business, I think, has a reputation of picking flowers.
Right.
And those flowers, of course, are individuals who, well, they don't sustain themselves unless you're an avocado seed, right? Then you stick a few toothpicks in yourself, hover over a glass of water,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, you're growing again.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does business facilitate continuation of the flowers growth, presence, beauty, exuberance, whatever. It's
Mhm.
action. How do
Mhm.
you do that? And I would ask that question if I was teaching a class or whatever, or giving a lecture. I would want
Mhm.
to know from people, how do you keep the flower alive? You can put the powder in there, right? Like the florist gives you.
Yeah.
Right? And your roses will last another week.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you forgot to cut off the bottom of the roses, 5 or 6 inches, because it's kind of dried out, so you need to know all these little tricks as a process manager of
Mhm.
how to retain the beauty of, and this can be self-administered as well. If you're Little Shop of Horrors or whatever, and you want to eat people, okay, you're another management structure, um, or whatever, but it's interactive. And I don't think that, even though there is this whole idea about business being an ecosystem, and whatever, it's like metaphors. But if we didn't turn people into metaphors, how would you answer a person who gave you that question? How am I would ask, if I was being interviewed for a job, and I would say, what is going to keep me alive in this job?
Mhm.
That would be a question I would ask myself first, right? Me, in particular, my own way of doing things. And I would say, I would assess that answer long before I had my second conversation with people, right? I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going to be your typical employee, and that may turn you off, right? Because I'm another one of your fingers. That's what I feel like. Okay, I hired you so you would wipe my nose every 2 days.
Yeah.
It's like, but I don't like wiping your nose. Well,
Mhm.
then you don't have a job. And
Mhm.
people, I don't know whether they're under, somebody's thumb or whatever, seem to lose the very reason why they were attractive in the first place. And they may not even assess themselves that way. They
Sure.
may not know that they're a dying flower in a vase where the water hasn't been changed, in a week.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you do that, Troy? How do you keep people alive? Creative expression? You
Well,
keep them what? Shining?
I I think the great combination of you and me is what we are, developing as our business is this capability of innovating, being able to change and adapt, and being at that um not even at the very front line, but a little bit back and saying, okay, all these things are changing, and because of how rapidly technology changes and the amount of data we have, we need an approach that it hasn't been done before. And yeah, it's the creative expression and the combination of that with adoption of technology in the business context. And it's this futuristic aspect of thinking about how to, evolve. That's the requirement. Now, if a company's there and they just want a, I don't know, HR manager, then they'll get a HR manager. And that will keep the system ticking over and do whatever it's doing. Now, just like the flowers, these systems will die because they've been cut from the source and they've been put into, and yeah, you can put a little bit of nutrients in the water and it might make it last a little bit longer. But what I'm interested in and what we're kind of developing is ways that you don't have to kill the plant outside, or just acknowledge that we have a plant. We're not going to take all the flowers. We're just going to take a snippet, and the whole process kind of moves from just the flowers in a vase to connection with nature and that source of value, let's say. So we're getting value, but we're not cutting it off. We may be snipping a piece here and there, but yeah, this new way of thinking about the world in value exchange, that we're not causing harm. We're getting flowers, but we've had a system, and that system respects where the energy, where the value is coming from. And all of this is really complex, and because of how complex the world is. But what is required is a creative mind, a creative, expressive opportunity, a doorway that you can go in and think about, okay, what is the best way? And you've talked about it, is like what's missing is this individual connection. So as we've been discussing before this video call, we're writing some new articles.
Yeah.
And yeah, business, we can see a lot of challenges coming because of how big pharma, big tech, global international organizations are coming in with authoritarian mechanisms and rules and regulations.
You're a conscript. You've been drafted.
Yeah, and that old system just doesn't seem to be working. It worked for a while, but because of things changing like they always do, we need something new. And one of the new articles I'm writing right now is transitioning from leadership to mentorship. So as a mentor, you address individuals and you look to assisting them in fulfilling their jobs and their lives. And what the world needs is not more leaders, but it desperately needs more mentors. And if we have a network of mentors, and yeah, allowing new mentors to fade out, establish themselves, the old mentors fade out and regenerate. I see this more of a natural and sustainable solution than having, okay, even, yeah, the way we structure organizations with a CEO and saying, okay, they are the leader, what do they want? But replace that with a mentor, and replace the project managers with mentors, and replace the any type of manager. So bringing in this mentor requirement. So when people are saying, oh yeah, I want a job, well, what's your experience in mentoring? And nothing. Well, okay, you need a mentor, because we're looking for a mentor. So you go get someone to help you help you do what you want to do. Find a mentor, and then you can say, well, yeah, I don't have any experience being a mentor, but my mentors are, Danny Thiel and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. And then from there we can say, okay, we're ready. We'll now make the transition into being a mentor. And if that was in place, I think things would change.
Absolutely. An idea just occurred to me, as often happens when I'm talking to you, is we had talked about Data Cafe. Remember Data Cafe?
Yeah.
Right. One of our
yeah,
earlier
nicely
connections. Right.
Yeah.
Data Cafe. Because I was just thinking, listening to you and talking about mentorship and mentoring people, and I thought, because we call it the Danny and Troy show, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we should call it something like Coffee with Danny and Troy, right?
Sure.
Because what you're talking about, that's a great basis, a great platform for inviting people to have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, come let's have a cup of coffee. Or like one of my roommates or friends in LA, I had a terrible day one day, and my friend was there, and I came in the door, and he said so perfectly, he said, "Let's have a cup of tea." You know? And suddenly, just hearing those words, right?
Yeah.
And the images of, past lives, or sitting at a table and just talking it over with
Sure.
somebody
Yeah.
is such a valuable thing. You know,
Exactly.
Keith was his name. And I started thinking about that when you were talking. It's like we could take people, we're available, of course, and people who have something they want to discuss. It's not a long-term contract,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be depending on their needs and availability and how rich they are, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, gets to be available, like you said, we're available,
Yeah.
and we're not just people who sit on a park bench. We've done a couple of things in our life, and
Exactly.
I believe I've told you before. I think this happened in Budapest. I was, going to take a bus to one of these hot springs, and it was, underneath the building. Buses come in, they park in a certain place, and then people get on board and they go away. And there's a ticket counter built into the wall, with a human, and people standing around outside. And I'm just standing there waiting for the bus. And this young guy, and this happens to me all the time, early 20s, when they just start to get a grip on life and what the hell is it all about. And this guy comes up to me. Remember, I'm in Hungary now, right? I'm an American in Hungary in a bus station
Yeah.
underground. And
Right.
this kid comes over to me and he principally strikes up a conversation.
Yeah.
And the common excuse is, I heard you speak English. And it's like,
Mm.
yeah, I do. You want to practice your English, but it always turns. That's a method of communication, and it always turns into some kind of a personal problem. It's like it happens in the grocery store, right? I'm in line in the grocery store, and somebody wants to, tell me their whole life story. And this kid, and it ended up being an issue between him and his father. And I think he saw me as maybe as a father figure, or as just a mature man, if I can use that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my sister used to say, when you grow up, and I would say, you mean if I grow up,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So this kid saw me this way, and we had a great conversation. I think he got something out of it because my bus wasn't coming for another 30 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
we struck up a meaningful conversation. We didn't exchange phone numbers or email addresses because that wouldn't work anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
that kind of need, especially for young men from where I see things, is needs to be, because you can't always go to your father and say, "Hey, Dad," and he's going to, run the program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we talked about this before, didn't we? It's like, okay, you know what, Dad? Thanks a lot. I got to go.
Sure.
But somebody they can go to
Yeah.
and respond honestly. Yeah, I ended up with venereal disease. I don't know what to do. You're going to say that to your father like that? Probably not. He's going to say,
Sure.
yeah, I understand. Here, drink some mercury,
Yeah.
or what. It'll solve it.
Yeah. And that's why, I see the benefits of consulting. We've talked about it before, or when in the business context and coming to challenges in a job, and I'm sitting there and I go, oh, I don't know, who do I talk to about this? And you can't tell your manager and, anybody
Right.
beside. So, yeah, coming in and having somebody external to your
Yep.
network and, yeah, giving these opportunities of growth
when
through
when
mentorship.
I was in LA, I met a transplant from New York City, in the entertainment industry. The most beautiful woman, absolutely wonderful. And she used to be a call girl in New York City, high price call girl,
Yeah.
Allison. And I said, I said to her, well, what did you do? I mean, I knew what she did, but I was surprised by her answer. She said, most people, they don't come to me for sex. They may think they're coming to me for sex, but we get to talking, right? They use their time up. And she said, they just want to talk.
Sure.
Apparently, their other half um, doesn't listen well enough, doesn't respond well enough for their needs. And so it was like, that's the service that she provided, but I think in some ways, giving people the idea that this happens in therapy as well. Giving some people the idea that I know your most intimate thoughts, or it may parade as, we're going to be intimate. Does that mean naked? No, because, I've been naked before and there's absolutely no intimacy at all. And I'm not about to tell this person, my deepest problems. That's going to affect me and my performance, right? So you get to a point where it's like, forget about sex. We're talking, and let me tell you what's on my mind. I may even cry, and that's okay. And I just got a message from Tina, and my robotic LinkedIn friend, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. She responded, of course, almost human, right?
Yeah.
And her response is, promoting creative expression, it's like a therapist, right? When a client has a problem that they can't solve, you give them a good solution or an idea. That's, okay. Tina's, she's on our wavelength.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's funny, isn't it? We're talking about that and
Sure.
speak of the devil, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and there she is. Anyway, it's kind of funny. It's all a matter of incidents like this occur. Obviously, one just did, right? And the topic of the conversation opened. This may be a good time to close this broadcast or narrowcast.
Yeah.
And the question is, what do you do?
Exactly. It's a question everybody should be able to answer, to be able to have on the tip of their tongue, and on different levels. Like, yeah, go deep if you want to, or go to the surface.
And now we've mutated the original question from what do you do to what do you do now?
Sure.
We'll cover that in a future episode.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks,
All
Danny.
right.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.